The night had been yawning itself closed when the first knock came soft, wrong, like someone afraid of their own knuckles. I was rinsing a mug in the sink, trying to decide whether chamomile could outvote the email still buzzing in my head, when the second knock followed, urgent and uneven. Our hallway carries sound like a throat, so I knew it was my door and not the neighbor's. I wiped my hands, went still, and listened for the usual soundtrack. Footsteps, keys, someone muttering, sorry, to the wrong apartment. Nothing, just breath mine. And someone else's. Quick. Too close to the wood. I looked through the peephole and saw one eye, wide and wet, a face I recognized mostly by proximity. Aiden from 12B. The guy with the bike that always shed a glitter of chain oil on the stairs. The guy who nodded in the laundry room and made small talk about weather like an apology. He whispered my name like a question and then like a plea. Please, can I come in just for a minute, please? The fear in his voice picked the lock on mine. I opened the door the width of my arm, left the chain on, and he pressed his forehead to the gap as if the cool metal might teach him patience. They're coming, he said. Who? I asked. Idiotically. Because pronouns at midnight require nouns. 2 men, he said. They followed me from the corner store. I have something. He lifted his phone like a holy relic and they want it. I am good at slow breaths. I learned them in a different season of my life when panic sat on my chest and refused to pay rent. I took one. I asked if he was hurt. He shook his head and then nodded, which told me the answer was marginal and complicated. Please, he said again, and I slid the chain. Aiden moved past me like a gust into a tiny apartment suddenly all threshold, and I closed the door with my hip. My hands remembered every lock. He stood in the center of my living room as if he might apologize to every object individually. He looked smaller inside my space, which made me angrier at whatever had carved him down. I flicked the lamp low, pulled the blinds, and felt our building shift from a place I sleep to a place with exits and angles. Sit, I said, and he didn't. He stared at the door, listening with the body of a hunted animal. Tell me, I said, quieter, the way you talk to a dog after thunder. He swallowed. I filmed something I wasn't supposed to, he said. On my way back, a car pulled slow at the light and then didn't turn. Around the block, I cut through the lot, and they cut too. He looked at the window like it might answer him. He was a good neighbor, the kind who returns a package from the wrong mat, the kind who apologizes for owning shoes. That was the calculus. I am a woman who likes plans, and planning around a stranger's fear is still a plan. I said okay. I said you can stay for a bit. I said we're going to be careful and boring and we're going to call for help. The word help felt both obvious and enormous. He nodded and the third knock came this one confident, like someone there on an errand that belonged to them. We both froze. I turned off the lamp. The apartment went to moonlight and refrigerator hum. A voice through the door said, maintenance. After midnight. In our building, my breath found a different rhythm, one I did not teach it. I put my finger to my lips and Aiden's eyes did something I will never forget. They apologized and they begged in the same second. I do not keep hiding places, I keep order. Still, every home has shadows. I opened the hall closet and shifted the coats. He shook his head. The closet shared a wall with the hall. The laundry nook had a folding door and a bad idea written all over it. He tilted toward the bathroom, then away. My bedroom was too intimate and somehow less safe. The only thing that made sense was the dark wedge between the couch and the bookcase, where the lamp's absence made a pocket he could step into. He slid there without a sound and pressed himself flat. I placed a throw over the couch back, a casual accident. The knock came again. Maintenance, the voice said, louder. We have a leak reported. Our building's maintenance manager, Manny, says buddy and sweetheart, and he signs notes with smiley faces. This voice wore no faces. I padded to the door, heart punching softly at my ribs like a child trying to be brave. Who is it? I asked. Maintenance, the voice said, and then a second voice, deeper, said, we need to check your bathroom. It's an emergency. We'll be quick. Through the peephole I saw 2 men in gray hoodies under dark jackets, hats low. No logo, no tool bag. The nervous bouncer look of men who haven't rehearsed civilian. Sorry, I said. Landlord policy says no after hours without notice. You can come at 9. The deep voice leaned into the wood. We can call the cops, he said. Please do, I said. Sweet as tea I do not drink. The men conferred in a lean-back shoulder shrug way and then one of them laughed. Don't be difficult, the first said. A text lit my phone from a number I didn't recognize. Open up. 12B. Aiden's eyes burned from the shadow. I mouthed, is that them? And he nodded once. I sent a new text with my thumb inside the kitchen drawer, where I keep rubber bands and batteries and the quiet knowledge that my city allows texting 911. I typed, 2 men posing as maintenance, trying to force entry. Possibly following neighbor from store. Address. Apartment number. I added, I will not open the door. I hit send and felt the tiny electric courage of a message leaving your body to go make a friend in the world. The men knocked again, different cadence, more threat. I lifted my phone and app opened my doorbell camera. The video feed showed a slice of shoulder, a cap brim, the insecure tilt of someone pretending to belong. I took screenshots. My thumb was a metronome. Aiden looked at his phone like it was a small bomb. "Show me," I mouthed, and he held the screen where the light would not hit it. A paused video. A storefront after dark, a man passing a slim envelope to another in a car idling in a red zone, a city inspector's badge catching light for a fraction too long. The second man counted with his thumb while the first looked up and down the block like a badly written play. And then Aiden's shoes in frame, too late. The car door opened and someone said, "Hey." He'd turned and run. He had not stopped running until my door. The knock became a fist. Somewhere on another floor a door opened and closed, a warning bell rung by someone else's life. My phone buzzed. "Dispatcher. Officers en route. Stay secure. Do not engage." My shoulders loosened enough to breathe again. Aiden's shoulders did not. He whispered, "I messed up." And I whispered back, "You told the truth to your camera. That isn't a mess, that's a map." Then the hall went to silence. The peephole showed nothing. The men had stepped out of frame. That is when all my skin learned to hear. Silence is not nothing, it is preparation. I moved to the side of the door where a body is least expected and pressed my ear to the seam of wood. A faint plastic rasped tape on a lens. They were covering my door's peephole. I pictured the thin black circle vanish under a sticker and felt anger join fear like a second hand on a watch. Aiden had folded himself so small the throw didn't move. My phone buzzed again. "Any injuries? Any weapons seen?" I typed, "No visible weapons. Threats implicit. Voices male, 30s. One light accent. Maybe local." Then I did something I'm not proud of and also won't regret. I texted our building group chat. "Anyone else getting maintenance knocks? Do not open." The chat, usually a drip of lost packages and laundry etiquette, bloomed. 7C. Who is knocking at midnight? 9A. Heard footsteps. 5F. Maintenance never comes this late. Our night shift nurse in dry D sent, "Calling Manny." A moment later, "He's asleep. Says no calls placed." My skin prickled. The men outside had not accounted for a building waking up. Footsteps crossed the hall outside, a neighbor probably going to the trash chute and then stopping, reading the tenor of the night, deciding to be elsewhere. Through the doorwood I caught a whisper. "They're awake." The other voice. "Get the phone." The printer's whir of anxiety in my chest tried to be louder than my plan. Plan. I thumbed open my camera again and clicked to my hallway feed. The sticker blurred the view, but a shadow crossed, broad and quick. My kitchen window looks onto the inner court. If they wanted to wrap the building, they'd have to come through the lock-gated garden. I peeked through the slat of my blind. Below, the iron gate glinted. Past it, a car idled with its lights off. License plate. I thought like a person in a detective show, and then laughed inside my mouth because life rarely cooperates. Still, the street lamp caught enough. I snapped another photo, shaky but legible. The group chat pinged. 8B. Someone's at my door too. 6E. Police? 10. On their way per dispatch. A neighbor I barely knew. Miss. Ortiz in 14A, sent. Recording from my hallway cam. 2 men. She attached a clip, 2 silhouettes. One with a scar on his cheek like a quotation mark, moving too confidently. I forwarded the clip to the dispatcher with our address again. Then the buzzing fluorescence in the hall clicked dark. My apartment joined the building in a breathless, sudden night. The power to the hallway had been cut at the breaker at the end of the corridor, easily reached by anyone tall enough and rude enough. My scalp tightened. I heard a jigger at my knob and Aiden's phone vibrated with a held-back insect hum. I lifted my keys and slid the deadbolt to be sure of my own certainty. The metal thunk sounded like a promise. The men moved down the hall. A door further along rattled and someone shouted, "Go away, the police are coming." A laugh answered. Then a sharp pop echoed wooder frame, a forced entry, not mine. The men had chosen 12B. Aiden swallowed too loudly. I could feel the sound leave him like heat. He typed and the blue light briefly made a ghost on my ceiling. He angled the phone down and I read, "They're in my place." I smelled the sour panic of someone realizing the hinge points of their life are suddenly visible to strangers. The group chat bled fear. 12C. Someone just ran by my peephole. 11. I hear glass. 3D. I'm with Manny. He's calling 911 directly. The first siren reached us faintly, far off, threading its way through the city's 1,000 stories. In the blackout, the knockers changed tactics. A voice at my door said, "Last chance. Give us the phone and we leave. No cops. No harm." There's this myth that one decisive sentence changes everything. Mine wasn't decisive. It was small and exact. I said, "I'm not alone, and help is close, and there are cameras everywhere." The silence that followed was thinking. Then footsteps receded, and a door upstairs exploded with an awful, terminal sound. I pictured Aiden's couch torn. His kitchen drawers turned out like pockets. He covered his mouth with his hand and something in me fissioned. Fear dividing into fury and function. I texted the dispatcher, the plate, the scar, the clip. My phone buzzed. "Units on scene in 2-3 minutes. Stay away from windows. Do not open door." Aiden typed, "I'm sorry," and I typed back, "We're not auditioning for blame. We're surviving." Red and blue arrived like an argument with the night. Sirens wound down in the courtyard, lights trying to thread themselves through our blinds. Commands rose up the stairwell clear. "Police, get your hands where I can see them," the sound of authority used as a tool instead of a threat, which is rarer than it should be. A smell of adrenaline and old dust lifted in the hall. I stepped back from the door to find a spot where a stray eye through the peephole wouldn't catch mine. Aiden's shoulders unlatched a degree. He unclenched his hand from his mouth and trembled as if he'd been holding up a bridge and could finally set it down. The group chat bloomed with new courage. 10. I hear them on our floor. 7. C. Lights back on in hall. 3. Manny flipped the breaker back. Footsteps thudded, purposeful and plural. The knock at my door this time was a measured rhythm and a voice that carried paperwork. "Police. Ma'am, are you safe to answer?" I looked through the peephole uniforms, nameplates, shoulders that belonged to the city and would need proof anyway. I answered without unlocking. "I won't open yet. 2 men in street clothes tried to force entry about 15 minutes ago. They're in 12B now. I have video and a plate." The officer nodded like a person who has practiced not showing relief in front of a door. "Understood. Can you slide the video under and hold your phone to the peephole?" I printed. Habit of a woman with a wireless printer and a need for tangibles, and fed the hot paper under the door. I held my screen up. Grainy man with the scar paused mid-blink. The hallway light came back and the sticker peeled off my peephole from the heat. A small hiss of glue giving up. The officer's partner called it in, code and shorthand threading together. Another voice down the hall. "We've got signs of forced entry. 12B, kitchen window open to the fire escape." The deep, anxious laugh of someone whose plan had tripped. The courtyard gate clanked, someone trying exit where entry had been slicker, and then a shout I imagined with a little private joy. "Got one." The foot chase thud ribboned through the stairwell. I stayed still like a ritual. The officer knocked again, softer. "Ma'am, I'm Sergeant Patel. The scene is secure on this floor for now. You can open to me or I can meet you in the morning." I opened, chain first, and the hall spilled into my air. He was compact, eyes clear and edged with tired. Behind him, a younger officer looked at everything the way you do when you're still learning what danger hides as. My apartment smelled like detergent and fear. Their uniforms smelled like rain that had thought about falling and changed its mind. Sergeant Patel took the paper, glanced at the clip, and the corner of his mouth twitched in a way that wasn't a smile but wasn't not. "Who's with you?" he asked. "My neighbor," I said. "He's shaken, not hurt. He filmed something downtown that may be linked to these men." I didn't say inspector or envelope. I wanted to feed truth in chewable pieces. The sergeant nodded once. "We'll need statements. For now, stay put. We have one in custody. The other may have jumped the fire escape into the inner court. My radio says canine's 2 minutes out." He paused, glanced at my doorbell, my printed stills, my hands. "You did fine." The words fell into me like warm water. After he moved on, Aiden unfolded, knees cracking in the quiet, eyes wet in a way that didn't ask for pity. He showed me the video again, and this time I heard more than saw the brief exchange before the envelope. The name mumbled and caught by bad audio, the flash of badge and what it meant. I asked, "Is that who I think it is?" He nodded. "City inspector we all meet when a permit's held hostage." I caught him taking cash from the contractor with the white van, the one that did the cheap drywall patch when the leak from 14A took down the ceiling. The men following me, they had the same logo stitched under their jackets as the contractor's crew sometimes hides. He swallowed. I was stupid. I shook my head. "You were precise. Stupid is bringing this to my door without thinking. Precise is filming a truth people pretend doesn't exist. Both can be a person in the same night." He laughed once, a broken plate of a sound. The hallway erupted again, boots, a clatter, a voice that said stop or you're going to regret it, and another voice that regretted it anyway. The group chat chimed with gratitude and someone sent a string of heart emojis like a bucket brigade. I sat because my knees asked me to. Aiden sat because sitting is what's left when you've been made into a rabbit and the dogs have finally leashed elsewhere. Morning is rude after a night like that. All absolute light and the soft tyranny of schedules. Coffee aligned my cells. My living room looked ordinary, which felt like misdirection. The damage lived next door. Aiden and I gave statements at my tiny table while the sergeant's pen scratched careful shapes. Another officer took photos of my door, the sticker glue, the throw draped too neatly. Miss. Ortiz knocked, hair in a scarf, eyes bright with the adrenaline of being right. She handed the sergeant a USB stick with her hallway footage like someone bringing sacrament. The building manager, Mr. Phelps, arrived with a clipboard and a look he'd practiced concern that didn't dent his day. He said words like incident and liability with a cadence that wanted us to believe language could mop blood. When he learned what Aiden had filmed, his mouth twitched. He performed surprise the way a mediocre actor performs love, by looking past the person he's in the scene with. The sergeant asked him for contractor logs and passcode access times. Miss Phelps said he'd have to check with legal. The sergeant said, "Check quick." Aiden glanced at me. Question flickering, "Are we safe to be this loud?" I nodded, small and brave. Once the officers cleared, neighbors came in threes. Apology trailing on their tongues for not opening, gratitude stapled after. Someone brought bagels. Someone else brought that special whisper people use around survivors and scenes. "You did everything right," which is less true than it needs to be and more necessary than truth, often Island Mr. Phelps posted a notice about hallway camera rules and reminded us of our lease clause about guest conduct, a phrase that threatened to read me as harbor and him as harbor master. I took a photo of the notice and sent it to the sergeant with a single word. Timely. He responded, "Remembered." The city inspector stayed off stage, for now, but the internet did its feral kindness. Noor from 5B, my friend in all weather, found a news article linking the contractor's boss to a previous bribery probe. She sent me a link with 3 sentences. "It won't stay quiet, keep receipts, take a nap." I did none of those in the order offered. I taped the sticker glue circle to an index card with the date. I emailed myself the hallway clip. I wrote what happened in present tense in a notes app because the past tense felt like filing a recipe I hadn't cooked yet. Around noon, the sergeant texted, "Plate you sent ties to a rental used in 2 other harassment calls, no arrests. We'll be in touch." Aiden sat at my table and tried to make his fingers not shake around the tea I had made like medicine. He stared at his phone as if it might ask for permission to betray him again. I asked if he had a safe place to sleep. He said he could crash at a friend's, then winced. He didn't want to know whose door he'd put in the line of sight. I offered my couch. He refused, then apologized to the cushion as if it too had boundaries. He said he'd go to his union rep. He said he'd email the city oversight office with the video and CC the reporter who wrote the first article about the contractor. I said I would write what I saw and give it to whoever made that necessary. He said thank you so softly the word folded in half. By evening, the building group chat had shifted tone. Less alarm, more stance. People talked about installing their own cameras, about a tenant association with bylaws and bite, about how to keep a log that would hold up in the daylight. A late text from an unknown number arrived. "You don't know who you're messing with. Delete the footage." It wore the cheap cologne of bluff. I forwarded it to the sergeant, blocked the number, and sat with the complicated pride of being both shaky and upright. The official pieces moved like furniture. The city's Office of Inspector General called Aiden for an interview. He went with a union rep in a blazer that looked like a borrowed spine. The paper ran a short piece. Video purports to show city inspector accepting cash. Careful with its verbs, reckless with the comment section. The contractor posted a statement that said edited and context and we take allegations seriously. Mr. Phelps sent an email about upgrading locks, which made me laugh because our locks were not the problem. The people with keys and favors were. The building scheduled a meeting with a mediator. Our property manager loves a mediator when the facts are hot enough to set paper on fire. When the night came, we gathered in the multi-purpose room that still smelled like kid birthday parties. Neighbors sat in rows with crossed arms that said tired and alive. The mediator wore compassionate knitwear. Mr. Phelps stood near the exit like a flight attendant trying to remember the script about seat cushions. The sergeant came in plain clothes, a reassurance with a badge tucked away. Aiden spoke first, clear and flat. He described the envelope, the chase, the knock, the break. He did not dramatize. Miss Ortiz played her clip on the projector. The scar on the cheek grew into a comma at the end of our patience. I read my notes, the times, the words, the sticker over the peephole, the text that tried to disguise intimidation as typography. The room listened the way a room listens when its own kidneys are on the line. Mr. Phelps took his turn. He said our building cares about safety. He said tenants must not interfere with investigations. He said the contractor denies any involvement and we must avoid defamation. He said words like liability again, as if repeating them would reframe our night into a threat to his spreadsheet instead of our bones. Then something blessed and predictable happened. A neighbor I barely knew, Mr. Lee from 8A, stood and said he recognized the scarred man from a favor crew the contractor used to shift scrap at odd hours. He had a photo from months ago, a birthday cake in the lobby with faces and laughter and yes, there near the edge. The scar man smiling with someone holding a drywall knife like a party prop. The sergeant leaned in. The contractor's statement in the paper had said the man was not and had never been on their payroll. The photo in the payroll would have to argue now. The mediator, bless her handbook, suggested action items. We made a list that felt like a spine. An independent rekey with a written chain of custody. A tenant committee. A commitment from Mr. Phelps to provide contractor logs. A donation to cover 12B's damages. A building-wide policy that after-hours access only happens with 2 verifiable badges and a body cam. It was both insufficient and a beginning. As the meeting dispersed, the sergeant took Aiden's phone into evidence with a receipt and gave him a duplicate on a flash drive. He told us to stay noisy and specific. The line landed like a benediction. Outside, the air carried that clean, post-storm smell city trees offer as a mercy. Aiden hugged Miss Ortiz like family and then stepped back as if embarrassed by touching Hope. He turned to me. "You didn't have to open your door," he said. I said I didn't open it. I unlocked it carefully. There's a difference. He smiled with half his mouth, the half that had learned new courage. He said, "If you ever need, then stopped," because the sentence would always be too small. I said I would sleep that night with my phone face up, and my lamp off, and my door locked, and my neighbor's thanks like a warm hand on my shoulder. He said that sounded like a plan. Plans are my favorite lullabies. After the noise settles, life still wants dishes washed and rent paid. You learn to be brave and ordinary in the same hour. The city moved with the lumbering dignity of bureaucracy and, unusually, some speed. The inspector went on leave. The contractor scrubbed a homepage and hired a PR firm with a font too clean for the mess it was trying to bleach. Aiden stayed at a friend's for a week and then, gently, came back to his apartment with a new door and a security bar that made his entryway look like a well-defended secret. The building installed cameras legally this time, posted signs in 3 languages, and Mr. Phelps started smiling like a man who'd learned that being watched could be a policy too. People smiled more in the hallways, not because they were happy, but because they had recognized one another in the dark and returned. Apologies arrived in quiet envelopes. A Tupperware of soup from 11D with a note that said, "Sorry we didn't open," a free hour of bike tune, up from the guy in 9C, a plant left on Aiden's mat with a tag that said, "For your new window." The group chat became less petty, more useful. We put each other's emergency contacts in a document and made a phone tree that turned out not to be corny at all when used once for a fire alarm that was real. I took a walk with Noor and tried to tell her what it felt like to be a hinge in a story that could have slammed. She said, "You were a hinge and a doorstop." She said, "That is very you." We laughed in a woodchip-scented park until the fear that hadn't yet left my ribs got bored and wandered to bother someone else's afternoon. At home, I cleaned the sticker glue off the peephole and left a faint ring. A scar of sorts. It pleases me. In a strange way. Aiden came over with a pie and the duplicate drive, and we watched a stupid comedy so our bodies could relearn the art of laughing at nothing important. Midway through, he asked if I was thinking about moving. The truth tilted. I had already looked at listings near the river, studios with 1 window and a kind of quiet I hadn't had since childhood. But I also felt the building thickening around me, not like a trap but like a community spine. I said I didn't know. He nodded. He said if I left, he would understand. He said if I stayed, he would feel safer knowing I was near and hoped that didn't sound like making me a lighthouse against my will. It didn't. A lighthouse doesn't save ships. It tells the truth about rocks. The truth is what had climbed our stairs that night, knocked, and asked to be hidden, and what I had decided to give away while keeping myself intact. Weeks later, the sergeant emailed. Second suspect picked up in a sting unrelated to your case, but matching descriptions. Video helped. Thank you. He closed with a line I printed and taped to my fridge like a recipe. Document, escalate, don't go alone. I added my own in pen, and make tea. I did what people do who have faced down a door and won the right to choose. I stayed through winter. I planted herbs on my sill in spring. I learned the sound of Aiden's step when he was fine and the text of his silence when he wasn't. On a summer night, months after, someone knocked with the cadence of a neighbor with a package. I opened my door to Miss Ortiz holding a misdelivered book. She looked past me and saw the faint ring where glue had kept its record. She touched the scar the way you touch a friend's healed cut. We smiled. "It's not pretty," she said. "No," I said. "It's true. I did move at last, not out of fear, but out of the kind of fatigue that asks for a new light. I found a small studio above a bakery that starts at 4 a.m., so I always know the night is passing. On the last night in my old apartment, I stood with my hand on the door I had learned so well. I thought about the ways we open. A latch, a call, a line in a text to a dispatcher whose name I never learned. I thought about the ways we close. A deadbolt, a decision, a sentence that says no and then holds. Aiden came by with a potted rosemary and a small card that said nothing but my name and his. He said the city had filed charges. He said the contractor had new counsel and a new slogan. He rolled his eyes. He said Mr. Phelps now greeted cameras like parishioners. We laughed. We promised to send videos of dumb movies when the night felt teethy. I locked the door behind me without ceremony. In the new place, I hung a bell by the door not to catch ghosts, but to remind me that knocks can be good too. The bakery's morning bled through the floorboards and my sleep learned new rhythms. Sometimes I woke at that threshold hour and held still to see if my body would speak in fear or peace. Mostly it said peace, but on certain anniversaries the memory came polite as smoke. On those days, I made the tea and reread the line on my fridge and texted Aiden a photo of my plant leaning toward light. He would send a picture of his window, rosemary thriving, captioned, "We kept it." We did. People like to say the night changed everything. It didn't. It revealed the scaffolding we'd pretended wasn't there and gave us a way to strengthen it in daylight. The men with the scar and the voice found their way into reports and courts and whatever comes after that, for men who forget other people are not just obstacles. The inspector's name became a headline, then a trial, then a bullet point in someone's ethics training. My building became a better building, not because we hired an extra guard or posted a poster, but because we decided to share the weight of the door. I am still the woman who takes slow breaths and enjoys plans. I'm also the woman who will answer a soft wrong knock without opening, who will make a room into a hinge and a harbor, who will hand over a video to a stranger in a uniform and ask for a receipt. If that makes me less romantic and more prepared, fine. Romance never saved anyone at a peephole. Prepared sometimes does. When people ask if I'm afraid, I tell them the truth. I am careful. The difference matters. And yes, if you live down the hall from me and knock in the night because you've told the kind of truth that makes men run, I will do what I can with my phone, with my plan, with my stubborn belief that hiding someone isn't the same as hiding from what hunts them. Then, when the night has the decency to end, I will open my windows to bakery air and let the ordinary in.